Happy Monday, Monetary Reform Day. Back here at the Federal Reserve, getting my camera angle together. And it's Monday night, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, just about. And I've just started my Fed watch. I've already had a few people come up to me, give me their email addresses after they saw my signs down here on the ground. And we have a lot to talk about. Kind of a weird day in the stock market today, but let's do a quick little recap of our recent history. So, this is monetary policy for the 99%. And the main thing that we need to start with is that monetary policy has been changing lately. In 2015, monetary policy began shifting away from open market operations, buying and selling of U.S. Treasury debt on the stock market, towards various forms of interest payments, interest on excess reserves and interest on overnight loans that banks leave in the Federal Reserve. So the long and short story is that right now, as of 2015, the private sector, the private banks are becoming increasingly dependent upon the Federal Reserve in a way that they never really have before. And of course, this is all still fallout from the crash of 2008, which precipitated this massive, almost 10-year period of quantitative easing, and when the Fed just started buying up bad debt from the too big to jail banks over the past 10 years. And now quantitative easing has ended, and the Fed is finding new ways to distribute money directly to the banks without even going over the stock market. And things are starting to change. We have to pay very close attention. That's why I'm out here doing this Fed watch. So another interesting thing is that December 7th, 2008, from Sputnik, they reported that the Federal Reserve is actually abandoning a key measure of crisis called the yield curve, which applies to 2-year Treasury debt. Apparently fewer people are stocking up on Treasury debt. This is a bad sign. This is a sign that could predict an oncoming crisis. However, the Fed feels confident in abandoning this measure because of GDP and unemployment growth, and other factors are supposedly completely contrary to signs of a crisis. Of course, we don't care about unemployment or necessarily inflated GDP debt. The main measure we're interested in is inequality, and that has not gotten better at all over the past 10 years. So, March 7, 2018, also of this year, from Sputnik, the Russian news source, talks about how the U.S. Fed helped Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley avoid failing grades on their stress tests. And apparently they still got massive big bonuses and all that. So the Federal Reserve, again, my hypothesis, they're becoming increasingly intertwined with the private sector, even though it's supposed to be an independent regulatory institution. July 2nd, 2018, Jeff Cox from CNBC reports that corporate buybacks are the only thing keeping the stock market afloat right now. So companies are actually buying back their own stocks. There's less investment in the stock market right now. And this could be really bad. There's been news about an oncoming crisis since early on in this year, and things are looking uncertain. And things have been looking even worse in other markets like Argentina, Italy, Turkey. These countries have been applying for debt relief from the IMF. And now we're starting to see effects here on our stock market. I just told some people who passed by that the central bank head of India was asking Jerome Powell to stop raising interest rates because of the boomerang effect that this will even potentially have upon U.S. markets. So, July 3rd, 2018, Dick Boyle, also of CNBC, predicts that Trump will clash with the Fed, turning monetary policy into a political activity. So again, this isn't just me making this up. Other analysts are seeing the Federal Reserve becoming more and more entwined with the private sector. And it's becoming politicized. You see, we're seeing business leaders start to dig their heels in the sand against Trump. And to me, it looks like people like Jerome Powell are getting ready to blame a coming calamity upon Trump and his trade war and deflect attention away from monetary policy. So it's important that we're doing this Fed watch and remaining vigilant right now. So July 12th, 2018, last week, in an interview, Jerome Powell, the head of the Federal Reserve, said that the economy is in a good place right now as long as tariffs and Trump's tariff war doesn't mess anything up. And of course, Trump, I think, added, another $200 million in sanctions against China this week. And things are looking uncertain. This is business leaders on Fox News with Liz Kleiman, I noticed, were actually talking about how this is bad for business. This is a complete reversal of trade policies from like the past 10 years. So it's not only that we see a division starting to form between the Fed and Trump's federal government, but we're also I'm seeing divisions within the leadership of the Fed itself in terms of how our economy is actually faring right now. John Williams, the new head of the New York City Fed, said on July 11, 2018, we need to embrace the fact that we don't know what the next crisis is. We need to think outside the box. That's from Carlton English in the New York Post. Well, there's the box. Here I am, here you are, outside the box, thinking outside the box. And obviously we know what we want. This isn't about higher or lower interest rates. We want sovereign currency. We want an interest rate-free system. We don't want the government to borrow money from a private bank when it should be issuing money directly into existence, according to Article 1, Section 8, Clause 5 of our Constitution, which gives it the right to do so. And of course, that power was abdicated by Congress on December 23rd, 1913, 2 days before Christmas Eve, and when most of these senators had no idea what they're doing in supporting the Aldrich bill. And so we got a lot of work to do to raise awareness about our solution to this, the National Emergency Employment Defense Act. The purpose of this Fed Watch every Monday is not merely to interpret monetary policy for the 99%, but to actually demand and force the Fed to adopt monetary policy that actually supports the 99%. And I'm not alone in this. Tonight, if the technology works, I'm going to bring a few more folks in, a few more other monetary reformers from across the country who are active in their local communities. And we're going to find out a little bit about how they first found out about the Federal Reserve, how they feel it's affecting our society right now, and how they feel about the NEED Act, how they found out about the NEED Act, why they fight this uphill battle for the NEED Act from ground zero. So, just a few more things in my little analysis. Today, here we are. Monday, July 16, 2018, to support the National Emergency Employment Defense Act. And it was a mixed day. Stocks were mixed. Oil prices slid. Marathon Oil triggered a major sell. And that's important. The energy sector taking a major dive that could potentially lead to bigger bear runs. Who knows? But Amazon, Netflix, these are the companies that are doing well. We're sort of seeing the service sector continue to remain profitable while the real economy goes right to shit, which is something we've seen historically in other great empires as well. You can read The Lost Science of Money by Steven Zarlenga for more on that, or check out my lectures on that book on greensformonetaryreform.org. And the other interesting thing that happened today, the other interesting comment that came from a major captain of industry who seems concerned about our economy, was BlackRock CEO Larry Fink, the hedge fund manager of the largest hedge fund in the world. And he thinks the market is at a pivotal turning point. And he said that today, according to Market Watch. And he said that the trade war could knock 10 to 15% off the stock market. So again, we see all these business leaders start to lie against Trump. And Dick Boyle writes that Trump, of course, wants lower interest rates, since higher interest rates would strain his government and his ability to run his country that we have lost control over and are here to take control of tonight. So with that, please leave your own comments. That's kind of where I see the Fed going. That's where I see where we're at right now. Do you agree with my analysis? Do you have your own? Let me jump in on social media right now and see what's going on. I got a lot of people tuning in. Let me wave back at some of you folks here. I'll rotate. Who we got watching? Hey, Pam, how you doing? Good to see you. Robin Morero. Good to see you, Edmund. Dan Kinch, good to see you. Dragon Brown, my training partner, Kachif. Raz, good to see you. Thank you for watching. David. Marcus Swad. Hey, William, good to see you there, buddy. I'm going to bring you on in a minute, I think. Sammy Ratliff, good to see you. Hey, Tiffany, good to see you as always. Known you since kindergarten. Macy, Kamelson, Budowski, aho, how you doing? What's up, Sarah Wolfman? Thank you all for being with me here on my Fed Watch. I'm going to keep doing this every Monday until eventually we cause a scene. And I've done this before many, many, many times, as you all know. It's really not hard to make something happen. Had I known what I known back in 2011, this all would have been over by now. None of us would have any money problems right now. But I've been talking too much. I see my buddy William George is on the stream and eager to jump in, and this is new. We haven't done this yet. We're going to test out this new feature and try to bring William George in. Hey, William, are you with me? Bring William George to camera. Let's see if this works. We haven't done this yet. This is monetary reform, social media history right now. The technology, the level of technology that I've been working with has just expanded exponentially since 2010, 2011 too. I mean, like this, we were using a service called Livestream. Literally, hey, William, what's up?
Hi there, Harrison.
Good to see you out here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good to see that smile.
Okay,
here we go. We've been trying to pull this shit off for a few years.
Yeah.
I can hear you.
Yeah, good. It tells you to rotate your phone to join. If anybody's watching.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna have to get some headphones. I definitely have your audio coming in. It's a little hard to hear you. I don't think it's just because there's a lot of background noise here. But I'm really happy to see that this is working right now. And even if I can't fully hear you, that's okay.
Yeah.
It's really more about our online audience right now. I can hear you. Yeah, I can hear you.
You can't hear me.
But I can hear you. Yeah. It's just I got a lot of background noise. So if don't worry about it. We'll do the best we can.
Okay.
But it's more important that everyone else on this live stream channel can hear you, because you know we already know the story. We know what we're doing here. But I'm really excited to have you out here with me and get this conversation going with you, Will, because you're one of my monetary reform mentors. You help me understand a lot of this shit very clearly, very concisely. This stuff isn't rocket science. And you're really good at breaking this down in everyday plain speak. So I guess my first question for you, just to help understand other people who are watching this, how did you first find out about the big bad bank behind me, the Federal Reserve?
I found out when I decided that I wanted to watch a Occupy Chicago economics teach-in back during Occupy Wall Street. And there were two instructors. One was a professor like I had in college, and she put me to sleep. And then there was this little guy named Zarlinga that got up there, and he started telling stories that I had never, ever heard before, like how George Washington and Hamilton conspired to take the power of creating money from Congress and give it to private bankers. And that triggered me. I said, I need to know more about this. There's things that have gone on that I do not know about. And I have a degree in money and banking from the University of Oklahoma.
Wow.
And of course, the kind of instructors I had were like the first professor that taught. And it was like, I didn't know why I didn't like her, but I just didn't believe her. And so Zarlinga started talking about, well, just a second, I've got some background noise going on here. No,
Oh,
no.
I'm actually hearing you just fine over my background noise too.
Oh, okay, good.
Just keep going. You're good.
So I recorded that. That was a live stream. We were doing a lot of live streams back in Occupy Wall Street. And it was a live
Right.
stream, and I recorded it because I wanted to know who this guy was and where I could find him. And I found him at the American Monetary Institute in Chicago. And and then he had a book for sale. And so I decided to buy the book, and that was The Lost Science of Money.
Yeah. Do you have a copy of that you could hold up real quick?
Yeah,
Hey. Also, Will, Mark Young is with us too. He's live, and he just sent me a request to jump in on the combo too. He's up next after you.
Okay.
You said your piece. Do you happen to have a copy of Mark's Young book?
No, I do not.
Bummer, I forgot to bring it, but I'll be out here next Monday too.
Okay.
But thank you. Steven Zarlenga is really important in this whole story, of course.
Yeah.
And his lectures really break it down on a level that answer a lot of questions.
Well, let's let
your
Mark
US
get in
history
here.
classes.
Anyway, the Lost Science of Money book was pretty expensive, $70, and and I decided that if I was going to spend that much money on a book, I was going to read it. Not only did I read it, we had a group of us got together from New York City to here in Norman. That's where I'm at, Norman, Oklahoma, and other places to read this book. And we spent 2 years going through the book. And all of our meetings, we met every 2 weeks, I think it was. All of them are available at needact.org. That's all you got to do is go to needact.org, and you'll find us reviewing all that's in this book on the history of money. And this is considered to be the most comprehensive history of money that's ever been written. So that's how I got interested in this. It was through Occupy Wall Street and Occupy Chicago.
Yeah, I didn't know about the Fed until Occupy Wall Street started either. This is the first time I heard about it. There's some Ron Paul type libertarians talking about it. And one time I was on a radio interview with some folks in Wyoming, and they asked me what I thought about the Fed. I didn't really know what to say other than I didn't think it was a federal institution. So I started digging. And then I connected the Fed with my student debt and all this other stuff. Started asking, what do we do about this? But let me ask you, Will, where do you think, you're good with the history on the Fed, so where do you think we are this moment in history specifically? How do you think the Federal Reserve is impacting our society and our lives right now?
Oh, it's whoever has the power to create money controls our society. That's what Zarlinga said over and over again. And the bankers create the money. 97% of the money is created by commercial bank loans. And they decide who gets money. And it's going to be what's good for them and good for their friends. That's how the Federal Reserve System affects us.
Right. So, you found out about the NEED Act from Zarlenga, obviously. You obviously love the NEED Act like I do, and I think it's probably fair to say that the NEED Act, for me, the NEED Act represents hope. This is I've never read another piece of I've never heard of another piece of legislation with as much historical transformative potential as this. You hear about other bills that get passed, stuff happening, but the NEED Act is different. There's something special about this bill. Wouldn't you agree? How do you feel about it?
It transfers the money power from the bankers to us ordinary people by Congress,
Right.
through Congress. Congress is going to be the one deciding everything, where money is spent. And, and now the bankers decide where money's spent. And it's spent on asset speculation, which is the stock market. That's why I don't pay a lot of attention to the stock market, because it's all speculation. And real estate speculation. That's where most money goes to. That's why we have high increases in housing, that causes many problems for us. I mean, people say, well, it's just money that we owe ourselves. Well, if you are a person that has to buy a house that's highly inflated, you've got to pay a big mortgage payment, and that means you're not going to be able to pay for other things that you would want to do, like a trip to Hawaii, or something else that you'd like, sending your kid to school.
So like in my case, for example, like my student loans on variable interest rates are all about to go up. I just got my first student loan payment for like $2,600 that was due last week or something. And like, I'm like, it's just a joke. I mean, like the rates on that are probably going to go up. Like, people don't understand just how much impact this bank has on their daily lives. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I'm glad we're out here right now together having this conversation before things completely go to hell, like figuring out how to use this technology and how to build a community here. And if we got a lot of other people online, Will, to all of you watching, thank you, Joe, Zev, Mark Young's waiting to jump on, Laura Hunter, it's good to see you again. All of you, thank you so much for being with us. Please share, please like this. Please jump in with any comments you may have, any questions you may have. I really want to bring in other people on this channel who don't necessarily even know anything about monetary reform, just to get this conversation going. Like, we want, like one of the things that like I run into a lot, telling friends about what I'm doing out here is that, oh, no one's going to believe you. You're not an expert. But the thing that I'm learning, and the thing that I think you might agree with, is that a lot of the experts are actually in on the crime. Like, we can't trust the experts. The experts make this look more difficult and more complicated than it really is, in order to obscure the fact that this is not rocket science, that this should be a lot easier. Can you talk to that a little bit?
Well, that's right. They give us all these graphs and all these figures and statistics and everything, and it's all blackboard stuff. It's not real. I remember the first time I had an economics class, Dr. Brinker got up. I was 20 years old, and Dr. Brinker got up on the blackboard, and he drew some graphs, like this and like that, and the demand curve. And he says, my friends over at over at Oklahoma State University say we can't do this, and this because of this. And he says, what I say we do is we open those windows over there and throw these graphs right out on the yard. And that is, it's blackboard theoretical approach to economics that confuses us. And that's what they want us. They want us confused. And the approach that Zarlinga has in the NEAT Act is a historical approach. This is what's happened, and this is why it's happened. It's all in that book, The Lost Science of Money.
I didn't quite hear all that because we got an ambulance going by, but I know I agree with all of it already. Hey, Kashif Brown's saying you got to find a way to get people to care about this stuff first. People are too comfortable with how things are. I highly suggest using subliminal means to get the people talking. And Kashif, of course, you already know that's exactly what 420 Fight Club's all about, buddy. But, yo, Will, thank you so much for joining me tonight. I think you and I could talk all damn night about this, of course. But I think I should let you go to get Mark Young on the conversation.
So let's let Mark in. I want to hear what Mark has to say.
Yeah, absolutely. And please, thank you so much, as always, for all your support over the years. You kept me going through some of the darkest times. And anything you could do tonight, just keep sharing this with your followers. Let us all know. And I'm gonna talk to you again every week, every Monday. You're just gonna be a regular voice on this thing. I'll check in with you every week.
I'll be here
because we know what we're doing. So I know you'll have something interesting to say next week, and I'll see you later, bro.
I'll be here. Bye.
Talk to you later, Will. Good night. All right. So Will's still there. I don't know how to get you off the camera now, Will.
I don't either. I'll tell you what, I'll just turn my phone off and come back on.
All right, cool. That should do the trick. And then I'm going to bring Mark Young in. I think he's still here. If you want to shoot me another request, Mark, maybe I can find your old one. Cool. Will, I'll see you later, man. Thank you so much, as always. Let me see where you're at, Mark. Yes, add. Bringing Mark Young on the camera. Mark Young is another really amazing monetary reform mentor. He has a little self-published book that he put out a couple years ago. Monetary reformer coming to us from Indiana tonight, and he's got a new initiative that he's been working on that I want to know all about. Can you hear me, Mark? Are you? I'm looking for you here. Can't find you yet. Approve. You're adding. Hopefully you're coming on. I'll clear my throat a little here. I hope you're all enjoying this tonight. We're doing this every week. Gonna get better at it as we go. Trying to get new voices here. Expand our community. Hey, Natalie, I think that's you I see up there. Let me wave at you here. Natalie Shmuel, of course, very important.
Oh, what's
up? Hey!
What's happening
So good to see you.
What's up, my man?
Hell yeah.
How you doing?
Okay, so as always, man, I got a little bit of background noise going. Let me ask you, did you hear everything that Will and I were talking about? Were things coming through clearly?
Yeah, I heard every word. I couldn't see good, but I can see now. I don't know what you did, but I guess whatever you did worked.
Hey, we just had a little conversation. I mean,
what's up, Paul? What's up, Dina? What's up, Gordon, too? Rick Holt. Some of my people here in Indianapolis.
Wait, sorry,
I just said some of my people here in Indianapolis was watching.
Oh, okay, cool. Everyone, all the viewers just got a good shot of my ear there too. But yeah. So, Mark, thank you as always for being here. Mm-hmm. You got some news you want to share with us tonight, right?
If you want to hear it, yeah, sure, why not? Let's
save that just for a second. I think the first thing I want to know, just to get everyone orientated, how did you first find out about the Federal Reserve?
I was in graduate school, studying urban planning and minoring in economics back in the early 90s. And so then was in an economics class and a microeconomics class, and we got to talking about how the Fed manages monetary policy. And in the conversation, we were just talking about, and I didn't really know a lot about economics at the time, but we started talking about how if unemployment gets too low, that the Fed raises interest rates so that they can slow employment. And I said, well, why would they do that? Would we want 100% employment? It was like, no, because then wages will go up. And I said, well, what's wrong with wages going up? He said, well, that's just the way monetary policy works. So it struck an interest in me. And so I've been, after that, I tried to do my creative thesis on what would happen with a sovereign money system in the United States. But I had a thesis committee of an economics professor, a planning professor, sociology, political science, and they wouldn't let me do it. But the economics professor wouldn't let me do it because he said that what I was doing was going against 200 years of economic dogma and blah, 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 blah. The other professors didn't know what I was talking about. So they just thought I was some little smart mouth kid trying to, buck the system or whatever. And so I've actually been interested ever since then. And so there's a couple people on here probably have seen me talking about it before. But yeah. that's kind of how I got into it.
So, all right, you got into it to that. Makes sense. So how do you feel this period of history right now? How do you think the Federal Reserve's monetary policy is affecting our lives and our society right now?
Well, I don't know. I think it's beyond the Federal Reserve is how the whole banking system is set up. more so than just the Federal Reserve. It's central banks all over the globe. It's that nations are really treated as corporations instead of sovereign countries. And so everybody has to borrow money, just like me and you. If I want a house, I have to borrow money. And so nations have to do the same. And that puts us in a state of competition between nations, between people, between cities. Everybody's fighting over scraps. And so the biggest thing about, I think, bank money that bothers me and the Federal Reserve is that there's this false scarcity of money that doesn't actually exist. Money can be printed at will. I'm not saying you should print it all at will, but it can be printed at will. So it makes all of our arguments that we hear about in Congress about the debt, about we can't afford this, we can't afford that. It makes it all bullshit, basically. And so that's the biggest problem I see, is that it creates all these straw man arguments that we sit around and fight over, when you can have, lower taxation. You can have improvements to the environment. You can have universal health care. You can have all these things. And it also cuts down on... Yeah, exactly. And so that's kind of how I see it, in short, or long, or whatever.
Yeah, no, that's I completely agree. And I definitely think that this is bigger than the Fed, too. Obviously, I've got a lot to learn. I mean, I'm down here to learn more so than to teach. I mean, we're just trying to get this conversation started. But I know that you've done the whole AMI circuit. You met Stephen. You've gone through the gauntlet of fire. How do you feel about the NEED Act? Like, what does the NEED Act mean to you? I mean, obviously to me, this keeps me going on a day-to-day basis. Like, if it wasn't for the NEED Act, I don't even know where I'd be right now. How do you feel about it?
I think the NEED Act is a good first step. It's a path. It shows that it's possible. The fact that it was legislation that was introduced in Congress shows that it's something serious. It's not a joke. It's not some conspiracy theory that it can actually be done. There is a such thing as sovereign money. There is no money scarcity. I think the NEED Act points out that they want to give away $3 trillion or something like that as a citizen dividend. So that right there tells you that it's possible. I think it also helps the argument for people to know that if you can print sovereign money and the government has the ability to do it based on the Constitution, then why aren't we doing it? And so it makes us start asking those deeper questions. Why is the system like this? And there are lots of reasons for it.
Right. So, I mean, there's so many other ways we could take this here, but obviously you've been in the monetary reform game for a while. You put a lot of money where your mouth is. You put a lot of work into this on your own, behind the scenes, and you have a new announcement. You're working on creating a new organization. Is that right? Yeah. We actually just formed it. We just got it incorporated. It was founded by about 20 monetary reformers. It's called the Alliance for Just Money, or the Alliance for short. So we'll be getting started, setting up websites. I'm hoping to start a local chapter. That's one thing that we're big on, is trying to start local chapters so local communities can start talking about these issues and people can get educated on it, because it's really needed. I'm hoping that monetary reform can come before some huge crash again or something like that. But we'll see what happens, but our organization is there. It came out of the desire to have probably a more proactive approach than AMI. Theirs was very scholarly, I'll say. When you went to the conference in Chicago, it was a lot of eggheads sitting around talking, and I like to consider myself an egghead, but I know that that's not what moves most people. So this organization is really more grassroots. A lot of people involved, a lot of different thoughts, really trying to push the message out there. Right. And I feel the same way you do. Something you said before about the NEED Act too. Like, this isn't a joke. Like, this isn't some conspiracy. This isn't some Glenn Beck right-wing John Birch style conspiracy play that we're using to kill time. This is about real money that we're fighting for. We're real people who just figured this out, who came together on our own, who are fighting for real money.
Right.
And to me, like, I wouldn't be out here on my own with a few cardboard signs feeling confident enough to have this conversation if it weren't for the fact that I know we got people like you in the heartland working on organizing a local community behind this and pushing this through. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and it's also the fact that it's not just going on in this country. I mean, you got positive money in the UK. You got some other big names that I can't even pronounce in other countries. Switzerland just had a referendum on it. Greece is talking about it. There's an international monetary reform movement that meets, and we've had conference calls, I think, over the last 2 or 3 weeks. So it's real.
Yeah.
It's a big thing. I think it, and I hope it's going to be a global movement one day, so that we can push monetary reform at every level and have literally millions of people in the street demanding change.
Like, I'm hoping that millions will be here, right here with me at the New York City Federal Reserve. You know, I'm out here right now. There's a lot of people walking by, and I mean, I could be doing more outreach, but I've been getting good reactions. Like, people are stopping, they're looking at the signs. No one's chased me away. No cops have come yet, thankfully.
Not yet.
And people respond well to the message out here. Like, it makes sense. You tell people about the NEED Act, they hear it. I mean, for me, like, I feel like when this ball actually starts rolling, it's going to feel so much easier than trying to go forward the way we have with these other nonsensical monetary policies. When people in the media start talking about this more, I feel like it's going to be a very simple switch to just say to the people, right now we got 5 people watching, but when we've got like 5,000 people watching, if we tell those 5,000 people to all call their Congress reps and tell them to support this bill, then things are going to start to happen very quickly.
I know.
And I think it is going to be like Henry Ford said, once a bunch of people understand how this monetary system and our banking system works, there's going to be a revolution overnight. Like, one morning on a Tuesday morning, we keep doing this long enough, I think we're going to get a lot of people out here. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's one thing that people who are watching, whether they hear about it, just take the time to see if it's true. I'm not saying believe me, do your own research. And it doesn't take a lot of research to see if it's true. Take the time to find out when somebody says something is this important, just take the time to just read something on it. You don't have to read Zolinga's 600-page book, but there's other stuff out there that you can read.
Like your book. Do you have a copy of it you can wave around real quick?
Yeah, hold on. Let me see. There you go. Can you see that? How to Fix the Future.
Yep.
How to Fix the
Future.
And
where can people get that?
Amazon, any type of bookstore place like that. It's available. All you got to do is type in How to Fix the Future, and it'll pop up if you're in a book section of a website. It's also on all video tapes too.
Yeah. Thanks again for writing that book. It's a very concise read. It really helped me get my head around all this stuff. Again, I'm happy to have you come back like every week. Anytime you got something to say, I'm really excited to hear more about the new Rebel Alliance for Just Money. I totally want to help you start a local chapter out here in New York City, of course. Mm-hmm. I'm totally going to downplay the 420 Fight Club stuff. I'll leave the weed and the weapons at home, get the suit on, straighten it out a little bit, fit it with the vision, like.
Well, I got people on here the people that I know saying that they can't see anything, but I'm assuming they can hear it. Yeah. I don't know if they can hear it or see it. I can't really tell because I've never done this before. So I'm assuming everybody on Facebook can see me, but I don't know how this stuff works. So we may have to work on a couple of technical issues, but maybe it's because I'm on a phone instead of computer or something.
I think I need to find some headphones, first off, so I'm not holding the thing right next to my face. I think that would probably help. Okay. So, but hey, this is just a really cool first start. I'm just really happy to have you and Will here with me, see your faces, hear your voices, and talk about this stuff. I can see the views starting to climb, and I'm looking forward to next Monday already, Mark.
I'll be there, buddy. Just when I can, I'll be there. You know that.
Yeah. You ain't got to be there every week, of course, but
and we'll get some other people involved in it too.
Game every week until we win,
like I said, the Alliance has a pretty good group of people, and so I'll pass them in and send out an email and let them know that they feel free to participate also.
Right on. Yeah, and anyone who wants to call in, we want to. My goal is just to get more and more views on this each week, just to build up the base and the community and the voice. And I know it's only a short matter of time before we start seeing headlines about this again. We keep doing this, so I'll let you have the last word. I could talk to you all night, just like with Will.
I'll just say congratulations on your doctorate, Dr.
Oh, shit. Hey,
congratulations. I know it's been a long time coming, so Congratulations to you on that. But
Hey,
you know,
thanks a lot.
keep up the good fight, buddy.
Yes,
And,
sir, I will. You can count on that, sir.
All right, man. Take it easy.
Have a great night, Mark.
All right. See you.
I'll have to let you. You'll have to disconnect.
Okay.
'Cause I don't think I can.
I'll figure out how to do it.
Cool,
All right,
cool,
see you,
cool.
bud.
So, as Russell with me, you're on deck, bro. If you're with me, Russell, let me know. Shoot me a request to jump on the channel if you're around. I see Mark with me too. Mark Proper. Yo, it's really good to see you. I might even bring you in for a second too. Mark and I are going to be out here next week with Natalie Shmuel, a few other really good friends of ours. We're going to get high, and we're going to play with sticks and knives, and we're going to have a really good time out here. And take some good photos, you know, try to get some media bait chumming, maybe invite a few journalists. But check out 420 Fight Club on Facebook. Give 420 Fight Club a like if you haven't already. We do martial arts as public demonstrations to raise awareness for monetary reform. And we have an alumni with us, Kashif Brown, who's with us. And I don't know if you have Facebook Live capabilities on your phone, Kashif. I'm seeing your comments. I'm loving your comments. Keep shooting your comments to us. And I'd love to bring you on. I'm going to try to bring Mark on. Let's see if Mark Proper can join us here. We haven't tried this. We didn't plan this at all. Mark doesn't know. I'm totally putting him on the spot right now. We'll see if he's even available in a position to talk to us right now. But we have another monetary reformer as well. My friend Russell. I'm looking for him. I don't see him online right now, but we'll see if he joins us soon. Anyway, I think this is pretty much a successful broadcast already. Oh, Kashif, you have the app, but you don't know how to go live. Keep playing around with it, man. Like, sooner, if you figure it out, I'll totally bring you on. I'd love to talk to you out here, too. Really miss training with you out here, for sure. I think I'm just going to do a little outreach, see if some people are down to talk about this. I haven't seen any... If you see anybody, like, looking at the signs, like, over my shoulder or something like that, let me know. I want to go talk to them. Want to try to get some more email addresses. Already got 2 people talking to me today. Hey, we got Kashif on the air. Looks like Kashif Brown figured out how to get that phone tech going pretty quickly. Hey, Mark, I see you there too. Yo, Mark, meet Kashif Brown with me. He was training with us about a year ago. Then he had to move out to Cali, but he's on the other coast out there. And hey, looks like this is working. Oh, look at you. How you doing? Hey, good to see you, man.
All right, man. How about you, bro?
Dude,
how's it been?
I'm doing all right. I actually, you might be interested to know, I took like about a quarter tab of acid before I jumped on the train, before I came out here. So I'm actually feeling really good right now. I'm feeling electrified. And I'm just really happy this technology is working out. It's really good to talk to Will and Mark, and now it's really good to fucking see your face too, man. Here we are at the Fed, just like always. Oh, look at that. Natalie's happy to see you too. So, what's been going on? How you been? You're in Cali right now? Where the hell are you?
Yeah, man, I'm in Sacramento, bro. Like, I'm actually right outside the Capitol myself right now. Just chilling. I come out here, just chill on my days off. Yeah.
Nice. So, like, I mean,
I just come out here and chill.
What, you're at the Capitol of Sacramento? Sorry,
yeah.
I didn't hear you, man.
And I'm right outside the Capitol.
The Capitol building. Oh, shit. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. Yeah, there we go.
So this is like the most nice federal location in Sacramento, I take it. They obviously don't have a Fed branch. Sorry, what'd you say, bro?
No, it most definitely is, though. Like, I come out here, just chill. Sometimes I practice my Kung Fu. I've been finding fellow martial artists around here, there's a lot of people who practice martial arts around here. I'm really surprised. And I've just been, like, getting along with them, learning some stuff, and teaching some stuff. You know, my knowledge of the Federal Reserve isn't quite as vast as yours, but you know, I try to get the message across every now and again when I can.
all I know is I got a lot more to learn, dude. Like, this is monetary policy for the 99%. Obviously, like, I don't know the whole ins and outs of how this works, but frankly, most experts really don't either. People like Steve Keen, Walter Mosler, these guys argue for like an hour and a half on YouTube about how money gets created. They can't even figure it out. And that's because no one is supposed to be able to figure it out. And I mean, what I can't figure out is why we don't have people at Fed branches all over the world right now. I mean, Natalie's saying we should have people tune in from Fed branches elsewhere. I've been smelling weed out here too, and like, it's not mine. This is coming from other people. So, like, I'm not sure. Like, other people out here
that's good camouflage
solidarity with me. Say what? Oh, never mind.
It's good camouflage.
Yeah. But so let me ask you. Tell all our audience, how did you first start getting interested in the Federal Reserve?
Well, honestly, probably through you. When I met you, I didn't really know too much about it aside from what I've just heard here and there in school or whatever. But most of it came from you, and as soon as I started learning about it, I started realizing how much of my life has actually, unfortunately, revolved around it. And I never thought that after coming all the way out here, I'd still be finding myself like getting a little deeper into it. Now that I'm kind of like firsthand experiencing the world with my own eyes, I kind of see the reasons why things are the way they are. And I've been kind of questioning it here and there. Like I said earlier, I was talking to some guy, and he was telling me like why. He was telling me why here in Sacramento it used to be like really kind of like shady, but lately the Sacramento has gotten more, I guess, human friendly. I want to say it's become a little bit safer. But as a downside, things become more expensive, and that is usually used to keep the quote unquote bad guys out of the vicinity, which I found really interesting, because like the middle of Sacramento, the city is pretty damn safe. But the further you go out, that's where you have the outskirts. You have people who have less money and make less, and it does get a little bit more shady and rascallion out there. But it's really interesting the way they do it, because like I never came across my mind that the reason why they might make things expensive is to somewhat keep things safer, but at the same time, you're making a divide. You're making an entire set of people against another entire set of people. Now you're just making enemies instead of like combining everyone in one union, and that's where the real problem starts. And now you have people who are just terrified of other people who, because they may not look a certain way or dress a certain way or whatever. And then you have another group of people who just look like absolute crap or get mistreated because they look a certain way and act a certain way and dress a certain way. And it's just like, it's a really vicious cycle of a problem. And I don't know, I'm just kind of sitting here on the sideline just kind of examining everything. Interesting.
Yeah, I think that's actually a really concise description of how the Federal Reserve affects our daily lives on a daily basis. Like, the rising costs of living, we're only, like, it's going to get worse. It's going to get worse.
Protesting and stuff like every day.
It's getting worse every day.
San Francisco. So when I was in San Francisco, that's all there was out there, was people just protesting about higher rates of living and just like talking about rent too high and all this, that, and the third. And in San Francisco and in other places in California, they have sugar taxes. So they everything that's quote unquote unhealthy for you is just increasingly more expensive than if you were to just go and buy something that's healthy for you. And I can see the benefit for that, because in San Francisco, if you're not taking care of yourself, you are going to die. You can't climb those hills without proper health. But at the same time, like I said, those increasing costs, and people who don't the layman, they're not going to want to eat some like apple acai like health bar crap on a daily basis. They're going to want to probably eat something a little more fatty and less expensive, quote unquote. But then you go to your local Burger King in San Francisco or Oakland or something, and a cheeseburger that might be like $1.50 anywhere else is like $2.50, $3 almost, and it's ridiculous.
Yeah. And imagine those price differences between, like, currencies or stocks or companies, like
Oh,
this
yeah.
whole trade war, like the economics of daily life mirror these bigger economics.
That's
like
just
these trade
that's just
wars and
American
stuff.
capitalism. That's how
Say what?
capitalism is, though. That's how capitalism is, though. It always has this really weird conveyor belt circle of why rising and falling. That's kind of like like it is a problem because you have this thing where sometimes it'll be up and then it'll just drop drastically. But I feel like
Yeah.
there definitely should be a way to fix that because it just doesn't make any sense. Because that's what a lot of people who feared about capitalism. Yeah, capitalism sounds cool on paper, but then this markets crash and everyone goes broke, and then it's like a huge depression for a long or short period of time, and then that just kind of repeats itself in a cycle. So we're trying to get out of that cycle, and you got to really figure out how to get people to think in that way. But we have a very cycling-like mindset, I guess. I don't know.
I think that's actually kind of the easy part. Like what we're doing right here, obviously, just getting this consistency week by week. This is the second time in a row I made it out here.
Yeah, all right, here we go.
I'm having a great time. Like I'm feeling more and more comfortable out here. I feel like I'm getting the format of this down better, so that we can start promoting this conversation a little bit more every Monday. Like I feel better about getting on Twitter and on Facebook and inviting more people in every week. And obviously, I'm gonna go download this conversation up to YouTube so we can share this out on Twitter a little bit more. And everything you've been doing on Twitter has really been helping too, man. All the mentions and stuff really helping.
Oh, thanks. I have like a total ghost land of a Twitter though. Like my internet presence is incredibly low. But I try to get it out.
I wish there was a way you could like just teleport here or like fly here real quick this coming Friday at 7 p.m. so you could hang out with Natalie, myself, Mark. I think Alex, he's going to come back. You trained with him a couple times.
Oh, the Russian dude?
Yeah, we're doing our next 420
nice.
Fight Club here at 7 p.m. We're going to hang out, get high. I've been learning some cool new shit, dude. It sucks not to have you out here. I'm not going to lie, man. We have a good time.
We did, man. One of these days, I'm gonna try and make it back there. Right now, I'm like, quote unquote, building for my future. So yeah. I am definitely saving. I am slowly but surely probably going to become one of those stock market people. Well, I'm slowly dabbling in stock market. So I have been paying very close attention to the rising and falling of stock market prices. But but given my lifestyle, I don't put too much stock in money itself. So it's just kind of there. And if it burns away, well, it burns away. But if it doesn't, then, well, I'm a very rich and smart man in the future. So we'll see what happens.
But hey, You know what, man? You know enough. Like the whole point of what we're doing here is to empower people like you across the country to attack at the same time. Like you're at the Sacramento Capitol right now. Like you being on the East Coast, you making noise.
West Coast.
I mean, like if you could ever get down to San Francisco, to the Federal Reserve Branch, to do a simultaneous broadcast from there, like while we're on the stream. I'm not saying like, you know, obviously like San Francisco.
I plan on heading there in August probably because I definitely want to get back down there before the weather gets a little too shitty again. Because I went there in April. It's not fun.
All you would have to do is create. I mean, I would even do it for you. Create a 420 Fight Club Facebook event page at the Fed for a 420 Fight Club. Whenever you're going to be there, you just show up. Whoever else shows up, you pull out your phone, you start live streaming just like you now. You know, bring a training partner. You just do one little thing at the Fed with just 2 or 3 other people at the same time I'm doing it. If we're talking to each other like this live with a couple other people, like that's going to attract more and more people, and the whole snowball thing is going to happen, and we'll create some headlines from coast to coast.
Oh yeah, I can definitely see that being a reality. And like I said, I've been meeting martial artists, and I've been meeting a few people who aren't really martial artists, but they're interested in learning. Like tomorrow morning, I met somebody at the gym, so now he's gonna help me train, and I'm gonna teach him what I know. I met this kid that does kung fu, like traditional like kung fu, but he has so much potential, but he's so lazy. So I'm trying to get him out of his laziness, and slowly but surely he's like getting back into it for sure. And I've just been meeting people, doing my research. I've been super into the martial arts stuff. Like, you have no idea, bro. Like,
I'm really glad to hear that.
practicing
dude.
every
it feels
day,
really good to give
reading books,
share
man.
that with other people. It's good to see you have a full-blown martial arts addiction. It's good to hear that you're talking about the Fed to other people in the martial arts community because, like, you know, we say all wars are bankers' wars, right?
Mm-hmm.
Every martial art comes from a war. Every martial art. Capoeira comes from slavery. Kali comes from the Spanish conquistadors versus the Filipinos. I mean, like, Kali's been in every war, really. You know, judo, obviously. I mean, like, most martial arts come from multiple wars, but every martial art comes from war. All wars are bankers' wars. Every martial artist, therefore, has a duty, has giri, a moral debt to use their skills to fight the Fed, as far as I'm concerned. And the history of martial arts really doesn't make sense unless you combine that with the history of monetary reform. So it's just really cool to see that you get this, that, like, this makes sense to you, like, that, like, you're pushing it out there in your own way every day to the best of your ability.
Well, I am.
Yeah, dude.
Martial arts.
Hey, man, I'm starting to wear out here. I got to get high again soon. My voice is getting a little hoarse.
No worries, bro. I hear you, man. It's about that time for me as well.
It's about that time. Dude, Kashif, we're going to do this again next week. We'll bring you back in. We'll jump on. We'll play around. We'll get some more ideas. But it's really good to talk to you, my friend.
Oh, for
really
sure, bro. Anytime. It was nice, man.
I'll check you later. I'll check you, like, on Monday. I'll see you soon.
Yeah, definitely, man.
See you next Monday.
Definitely. I'll just hit me up randomly throughout the week, man. I'll be, like, just chilling. I'll talk to you later, bro.
Cool, man.
All right. I'll be in the comment section.
Dope. Thank you. Please share it out. Please comment it up. Bro. We got Mark Proper here. Russell, I don't see you with me at all. You online, dude? Maybe something happened.
Nope. I guess I gotta leave.
Oh, Chief is still in there. Maybe I could kick you out. Let's see what happens if I do this. No? Are you still there? You out? I think Chief is out. It's good to have him, though.
No, wait.
Hey, Mark wants to join. You still there, Kashif? He's gone. So let's bring Mark Proper in. See how this goes. So Mark Proper is the new 425 Club recruit. He's the new Kashif of my group, and he's joining us online right now.
Wait, who's joining? Hey, what's up?
So good to see you out here, my friend.
Thanks.
I saw you yesterday.
Yeah, I just saw you yesterday. Last night we were talking about Friday.
Yeah. So this is totally a great way to end our broadcast right here. Just with a little promo to tell people about what we're doing on Friday. So before we start about that, let me just ask you the same questions I asked Mark, Kashif, and Will. How did you first find out about the Federal Reserve? How did you first get interested in this?
Federal Reserve, not directly, but probably in the 80s when I was seeing, like, Reaganism taking place and how that was affecting unions back when there was that union war. You know, back when there was that movement of workers' rights into corporate rights and the foundation of neoliberalism. In the 80s, you know, definitely. Was I able at that age to tie it to the Fed? No. It wasn't until I got involved in Occupy in, like, 2011 that it really came down to, you know, Federal Reserve. And listening to libertarians on both sides, like, not just listening to libertarians I agree with, but listening to libertarians who, you know, had some of the same gripes about what's happening in society, but they just had different reasons for it.
I think the libertarians have a pretty, their understanding of how the Fed, the wars, and the IRS work, I think is very more astute than you would typically find within anarchist circles on the left.
The libertarians definitely know what they're talking about, and since they're very into the Constitution, they're just a more lawful group in that way. Where the anarchists want to do it from hand to hand, it seems like the right libertarians want some infrastructure, but they're kind of at the same thing. I don't know if the right libertarians work together. I think we have a lot of the same complaints. We just have different solutions. So
right on. So let me jump to the next question. How do you feel? Like, I mean, you've been around. You've seen what capitalism looked like in the '80s. How do you feel about the Fed and capitalism right here, right now, in the 2018s? Like, what do you think? How do you think the Fed and capitalism are affecting our daily lives right now?
Oh, I think it's completely controlling it. Like, I think that's where the river of money starts in this country. When you're dealing with like the debt-based systems and things like that, you definitely get to where they're the ones who are tinkering with the interest rates and the way this money is distributed and who they're distributing that money to. It's a powerhouse. It's just a powerhouse where people are able, if they have the money, to take more money out to gamble with, and then if they lose, eventually expect the same Federal Reserve and the government to bail them out. Like, it's about maintaining that power. It's about keeping the hands in those people's control under some ideal that, oh, well, they obviously have the money, so they should be the best ones at controlling it. When really in a capitalist market, we want the people at the bottom spending the money instead of them seeding it, so that society can get what it wants. A more consumer-based society. But things are so crazy right now, with just the environmental impact and people losing their jobs to automation and everything. I feel like the NEED Act is really important right now, mostly because we need the infrastructure for the future. And, if we're going to create jobs and build up from the infrastructure level where we pay money to make our society better, and then making that society better gives money to workers, and those workers spend money in the society, there's small businesses to be made. There's a lot of stuff, like spend the money into existence through the workers and then let the workers put it into the economy and then let people pick it up from there, instead of investors and the Federal Reserve controlling where money is going to come from, and then other people have to chase it. It's a carrot on a stick in front of people, this idea that, you just have to make some wise choices and you're going to be a billionaire. You just have to hold on. But when the economy flushes, everybody's wealth gets tossed, and then they save, what they call, institutionally, infrastructurally important banks that, these private institutions are parts of infrastructure that people are controlling for their own benefit and the benefit of our own society. When they don't run them right, everybody loses, a massive amount of people lose their jobs. It's crazy. Like, we can't live underneath those people like this. Like, especially when people are losing, they're not losing boats or investments, they're losing houses and cars and jobs and their lives repeatedly. Like it's a video game. We just wait for the big guys to lose, and then we all start over, with usually less quarters too. Every time there's a breakdown, there's that loss of wages too.
Right.
So,
you actually anticipated a bit of my last question for the evening. You started talking about the NEED Act already and everything it's going to done, and I can tell you've really done your homework. Like, you've really read the bill better than a lot of other people have. And how do you feel about the NEED Act? Like, I mean, like you told me once, like when we were training, that like you read it and like you were just really impressed with it. Like, have you ever seen anything quite like it before?
not in that way, and especially from the era that it was written in. Like, it was very counterintuitive to what was actually passed, which was TARP. And TARP. They just put a TARP over it. That's it. We didn't fix the hole. Maybe that's why they call this the NEED Act. We need to fix the hole.
Yes. I think that's exactly what Dennis Kucinich had in mind when he was writing this. We should ask Jamie Walton about that specifically. We'll get him on this one of these days. He's still working with like a little flip phone, though. The dude who, one of the key architects of our economy, is like organizing on a flip phone. You know what I'm saying? So we got a ways to go. But hey, it's really good having you out here on this channel. We weren't even planning on having you jump in. We just did this, and I think it's going really well. I'm really looking forward to training with you out here next Friday. We're gonna have a good time.
Yeah, we're gonna have a great time.
And, yeah, and I'm really looking forward to introducing you to a few other people I've been training with over the years. I'm hoping they'll come out. You just met Kachif online. I hope you guys make friends on Facebook. And yeah, like I'm really looking forward to just getting more positive people out here like you, Kachif, Mark, Will, get Natalie back out here. And I've got another Kapodista watching, Instructor Karuja, old friend of mine. I played with him out in Madison, Wisconsin, but he's out in Minneapolis watching. I mean, like, just week by week, I just want to get more people out here. And yeah, I don't know. What do you think? Maybe we should do 420 Fight Club on a Monday night out here one of these nights. What do you think?
We could do a Monday. I mean, if we're going to do something, we can get the people. Let's do it. Yeah, like...
I could keep doing this on my own, like Monday night, just to hold it down here real consistently. But I think maybe, like, in a couple weeks, maybe not... Like, obviously, we're doing our thing this Friday. We're going to stick to that. But maybe the next time we do it, change it up. Come out here on a Monday night, maybe. I don't know. It could be fun.
Yeah, sometime in August, maybe. Like, because this month's almost over. We have this Friday, and then, you know, give a little time to get people interested. And, yeah, let's do it. Let's just hit down there on a Monday if we can get people to talk. You know, if we can get other people just talking to us and talking out loud. Just...
Like, imagine you're walking by, like some of these folks behind me right now, and you see, like, a dozen people playing with sticks and rubber knives. You're going to be like, what the fuck are they doing? What is this? And we're going to be like, yeah, this is an armed insurrection. Like, obviously, it's farce. We're not actually here to do violence. But, like, for me, the whole point of 420 Fight Club is to demonstrate that the National Emergency Employment Defense Act is, in fact, a life and death emergency. And we need to speed this conversation up, which is why, you know, I like to come out here and bear arms, literally, and encourage more warriors, such as yourself, such as the other people we train with in 420 Fight Club, to get more martial artists out here, because every martial art comes from a war. All wars are bankers' wars. Therefore, every martial artist has giddy to come out here and fight the source of all this war, to fight for peace. The purpose of martial arts is always about peace and harmony and tranquility and restoring order. So to me, there's no difference between martial arts and anarchy. And yeah, I mean.
Well, and I think it's also the community building of, like, sharing martial arts. You know, like, we learn to trust each other. We learn to have discussions. We learn how to move in order, when we're training, not to hurt one another. I think it just teaches, like, a social responsibility to people in martial arts, that same sort of ideology of, like, training very safely and working together and making sure that violence is not necessary, you know, it is a part of, is a philosophy that we can move into economic justice, you know, where we trust each other and, you know, we make sure that we can do things together in a safe way in a community. And, you know, instead of selling information, we're going to share it so that it's freely available, like older, more organic cultures used to do. And, I mean, unfortunately, it's just like, because the more people you can have function like that out in society, if there's a collapse, you know, and I don't think the current president cares if there's a collapse. I'm not sure what's going on there. Like, I don't focus on it because I don't see any sense in it. So I'm focusing on the need to act, because the thing is, if we could pass this underneath them, you know what I'm saying? Like, oh, while you're over-involved in creating a shit show, let's move this through. While people are ready, while we're starting to elect socialists, you know, while we're...
You know, like, the anarchists used to say, I don't know what I'm for, but I know I'm against. After having learned about the Fed and studying monetary policy, I'm finally at a point in my life where I could say, I don't fully know what I'm against. I know it's right behind me, but I don't even fully know what this thing is. But I know what I'm for now, because the NEED Act, the monetary system the NEED Act outlines, is so much more rationally intuitive than the deliberately obscure, vague policies that they create in order to deliberately get away with mass extortion, mass usury. So, like, yeah, like, I totally hear that point about not even focusing on the irrational craziness of all this other stuff when we have a much clearer, straightforward path right here. Like, one thing Mark Young said a while ago is that, actually William George said this too, is that a lot of monetary reformers in our community, they compromise and they only look for what's possible. Like, we have competitors for the NEED Act who would rather see state banks, who would rather see public banks instead of public money, and they think that this would be easier to get through Wall Street. They're more focused on what they can do now. They're more focused on reform rather than revolution. But, I'm not, that's not good enough for me. I need more, and I need it quicker. Like, I got a fucking life to live here. I don't want to be fighting this battle forever. I want, like, peace and tranquility, and I want leisure time, and, like, a full freaking stomach, and, like, a lot more weed in my fucking jar. You know what I'm saying?
You can't, as much as political activism is great to do and makes you feel great, and it's something you do for society, it's a royal pain in the ass. You can get burned out. You can get it just wears on you after a while. I don't think I've ever seen. Yeah, we've been through it. Like, people who've been through it. Like WTO.
I feel like we've gotten a little bit better at it every time we've done it, though. And I don't feel like we've done it quite like this. Like even just the technical capabilities that we've had with Facebook Live here, we didn't have this back in 2011. We did a lot more with a lot less. And I feel like if we had a fraction of what we had back in 2011, just 2 blocks, not even 2 blocks, a block and a half from me, if we had that right here, forget about it. Like, I hope that we can actually change the conversation to such an extent so quickly that we see a new occupation right here at the Federal Reserve by September 17th, 2018. What do you think?
It would go as well, honestly. Like, the only way that's going to happen, I think, is, and this is another reason why I like the NEED Act so much, is that it's already put there. It's already written. This is already a bill that you can get people behind.
It's not a joke.
We don't have to write it. We don't have to. When you're a political activist and you go in and you want to change policy, you go in with an idea. The thing about 420 Fight Club is we're going in with a bill. We're going in with a piece of legislation that can be passed and is totally doable. This is totally doable.
This is totally doable.
Thank God for Kucinich for writing it. And it's just kind of sitting there in that pool. Like, if we can pass this, we don't need, if you're into this thing, we don't need Bernie Sanders. We don't need Elizabeth Warren. We don't need someone to be like, well, in that liberal, we're going to do it this way, or that Margaret Thatcher
with them. I don't think Sanders or Liz Warren or even any of the new progressives like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, like, they don't really seem to know anything about the Fed. They don't seem to understand debt. Like, I mean, Will would actually know more about this, but I think Steve Zarlenga actually tried to approach Bernie Sanders when he was at a rally in Chicago, or at a dinner in Chicago, and he didn't. He snubbed him. I didn't feel the burn personally because they just had rhetoric. Like, yeah, we want to break up the banks. That's my rhetoric. I'm for that. But what's your plan? What's your mechanism to break up the banks? Unless you actually have a bill like 420 Fight Club does, it's just rhetoric. And I like his rhetoric better than I like Donald Trump's rhetoric or Hillary Clinton's rhetoric. But it's still just fucking talk. Like, we need people actually out here banging drums, keeping these people from working. We need to actually shut this place down until they rebuild it until they restart it the way we want to. And I think that's really easy to do. One of my favorite books is Poor People's Movements by Francis Fox Piven and Richard Cloward. And basically, this book is like an argument for direct action. Like, they pretty much talk about how mass membership organizations like unions are pretty much useless in terms of actually starting social change. And what they find, they have multiple case studies from the industrial workers of the Great Depression, from civil rights and women's welfare activists, and what they find is that really small teams of activists, just a few people, like teams of like 2 to 6 people, shutting down an assembly line or a bus or a business, like a restaurant or even a welfare audience, is more than enough to create a huge audience capable of changing stuff. And they didn't even have technology like the stuff we're experimenting with right now tonight. So I'm just like, to me, this looks so easy. Like, there's no one else out here. Like, we're the only people doing this. Like, we're doing the media's job for them. And I feel like if we just click that share button a little bit every week, a little week more, we take a couple extra photos, we just get a couple extra people here each week, I think we could do this literally almost overnight. And when it's done, people are going to be like, damn, why didn't we do this a few decades sooner?
I think it's a change in philosophy that's happened. You know, I think a lot of Americans in the 90s bought it. I think the 90s were good. Clinton had a good economy behind him. So it looked good in the 90s. Like, it kind of made sense. Like, but it's one of those things where we get sold, like, an idea, and then by the time the idea is implemented, it's corrupted already. Like 401ks. Like, oh, when you got in on your 401k, the first wave was great, but the second wave was already corrupt. So, you know, we made this thing, and now we're going to get everybody, after we've made the money in it, involved by governing it, and then take money away from them. But you said earlier, like, actually working. So in an article I read, there's only 3 of 5 or 7 chairmen filled right now in the Federal Reserve. Yeah. So why aren't there? Right. So why aren't there other people in there talking to those? Like, why aren't those chairs filled if this is so important?
Because no one wants the fucking job. It's a shitty job.
I'll take the job.
For the economy going down.
I'll take the job. We should go for that. We should get elected. Because maybe we could just do it from inside. Just be like, why don't we just turn off the spigot for a minute? You know? I mean, but the thing is that maybe those seats aren't filled because they don't want to argue with anybody else. You got 3 people, you know what I'm saying? 2 people are going to win against 1 person. So one person's always outnumbered. You know, it's an easy argument to have of people who are probably already invested in the same system that they're governing. Like, are they economists or these ex-CEOs? Is this the retirement land of the ex-CEO of, like, Bernstein, or are these people, like, economists with degrees?
You know, it's interesting you mention it. Like, Jerome Powell, the current head, is not an economist. He's just a lawyer. He's like a Princeton lawyer, so he probably knows all the crew, but he's not even like a real economist. He's just raising interest rates because that's what was normal in 2008. It's not like... I think he seems like really monetarily illiterate too. Like, I don't think he knows what he's really doing. It's all just sort of trial and error. And, you know, the other interesting thing too is this quote from July 11, 2018. John Williams, the head of this branch specifically, not Jerome Powell, the head of the whole thing. John Williams talking about how he has no idea how the next recession is going to start. Whereas you have Powell saying everything's fine as long as Trump doesn't say anything stupid. So I don't even think, like, the leadership of the bank is fully coherent on what the hell they're even doing right now. And yeah, dude, I'd rather have you as the head of this fucking bank. What do you think you got?
You know, I would rather have a do-boy. Well, I would rather have someone who is going to do something other than what I wanted as a result of actual philosophy than probably the do-boys that are in there. You know, like, whoever those people are in the Fed. Like, that they can't have the full chairs filled. That's not a priority with how much control they have over, you know, monetary policy. And they're just going to, like, we could handle it. It's like, that's not how that was meant to run. That institution is already dysfunctional as a matter of there's not enough people functioning in it. And, I mean... You know, I don't think we're most Americans. They just watch the TV. They just watch the TV. And a lot of people say, oh, well, is it right or left propaganda? I'll tell you the truth. It's propaganda, and it's neither right nor left propaganda. It's capitalist propaganda. It's not capitalism versus communism on TV. It's capitalism versus sort of kind of socialism.
It's just bankers versus the rest of us.
Right. Universal health care, then how to go shop for the best, I don't know, iPhone for 10 minutes after a blurb. Like, it's capitalist propaganda on TV. And so and that's meant to blind people. Like, well, if it's either Democrats or Republican, if that's the dichotomy we're going to have, we don't talk about actual funds. We just talk about the people who are going to make society kind of sort of function the way we want to. So
Right.
It's no wonder, like, you don't have to be functionally literate. Like, you look at the president, he's not literate in constitutionality or anything. Like, it's appearance over literacy in these things. And
he knows how to start the scene.
I don't know. Like, if you can start clogging the system up from the Fed, and if people agree with you and the politicians start to agree with you, like, they can, if not help, at least not hinder and, get things. I think that there's a lot, for people on the left who really want to go left right now to really, really get behind the NEED Act and see what it does for them. Yeah. Like, it's not everything I want, but it's so much of what I want that I can't not support it because it's prepackaged. Let's just pass this. Right. This is the easiest movement I've ever worked for. Yeah, we have the martial arts and we train together and we build a community and we talk about these things and we educate each other and we share information. And that's a lot, but when we just have this piece of paper that we want you to just pass and put these things into play.
It's a real weapon.
It's,
hey,
yeah.
We have some folks here. How you guys doing? I'm Harrison. Where you guys from? Denmark? How you guys doing? We got some international folks with us here from Denmark.
Cool.
How are you talking about the Federal Reserve? You got some folks online with us? Mark, I'm going to let you go so I can talk to these people, all right? I'm going to see you Friday, right?
All right, I'll see you Friday.
Cool, man.
Peace.
Yo, thank you.
No problem.
But yeah, so we're out here raising awareness for a piece of legislation. This is called the National Emergency Defense Act. This bill would nationalize this bank. It wouldn't end the bank, but it would put it under Democratic control. And now our politicians, our Congress, would spend money into existence directly on the American people. Universal housing, health care, jobs, green new energy, clean elections, so that our government isn't borrowing money from the banks anymore. And that's what we're out here. I got a few friends online hanging out, and we're spreading the word about this. How do you guys feel? Like, does this sound like a good bill to you? Does this sound like a positive thing to you? You just heard about it.
Yeah, just heard about it.
You just heard about it. Yeah. Are you guys interested? Are you interested in the Federal Reserve? Like, do you pay attention to monetary policy or anything?
I don't really pay much attention to it because I'm English, but I would say that the dollar is very important to
the world economy. Yeah.
So it's like all these countries in Africa, they use the dollar because they can't use anything else.
Right.
So the dollar is important, but
yeah.
I've seen another video that just says that the bankers, they just kind of control the money, so they make money by making money.
Right,
so
right. They make money by making money, and they don't really make anything real, right?
They take money for making that money.
Usury.
So,
yeah. You said you're from Poland?
No.
Were you? Denmark. Okay, cool. So I know that like we have actually there's really good monetary reform European organization called Positive Money, and they're working really hard on monetary reforms in Sweden right now. Sweden actually just had a referendum for sovereign currency similar to what we're fighting for. It's a similar solution. They want their government to spend money directly into existence as well. So things are actually much further ahead in the game in Europe. I don't know about Denmark initiatives specifically. Will, actually, let me check this out.
I'll not say it's much better.
Yeah? Will, do you know anything about monetary reform in Denmark right now? If you do, just type a little quick message so I can let these guys know. But Positive Money UK is the main, that's our counterpart in Europe. So if you guys are back in Europe or whatever and you guys want to get involved in this, this is happening internationally. This isn't just here in the US.
Britain is going to lose a lot of money because they're going to the Brexit.
Yeah.
All this cooperation, they don't know what they're what they're missing out on because they probably just said we don't want to be a part of the EU.
Right.
EU made them a lot of benefits. They will lose those benefits.
Right.
And since they're going to lose those, they're going to get pissed.
Right, right. and we have to see how that's going to affect international markets as well once that happens too. I mean, what I know right now too is that other countries, the Central Bank of India was yelling at Jerome Powell, the head of this bank, for raising interest rates, and he says that this is causing credit crises in other developing markets like India. In Italy, I know they applied for relief from the IMF. I know that Turkey and Argentina also had problems earlier this spring, and we're probably expecting more of this. They've already increased rate hikes twice this year, so they're raising the amount of money it costs to borrow money, and they're going to do it 2 more times this year too to try to bring it back to 2008 levels, where it was when the recession happened. So right now, stock market watchers and stuff, no one really knows like what's going to happen, like where the next crisis is going to come from next, and
Yeah, but those crises are going to more be born of the green community. So those select few.
Yeah, they won't feel it. But hey, that's why we're out here right now doing this. My friend William George says he doesn't know anything about Denmark, but there is a positive money European Union that I hope you guys check out. Would you guys be interested in email updates? Would you guys like to leave an email address? Yeah, if you want. Yeah. Here you go. I've got a couple other email addresses tonight. I just shoot out a weekly email blast just about monetary reform, just about news and stuff. Here you go. Yeah. InternationalMonetaryReform.org. There's an organization, more international scope. But this has to happen. This legislation, this has to happen in every country.
But 2008 had a huge impact in Denmark as well.
Yeah. What happened?
The prices of housing went up.
Right.
No, it went down. No, sorry, it went down. The economy was
deflated.
So it went down. People went broke, but not as huge scale as in America.
People were getting used to make lots of money.
Right.
All over Europe, it had an impact.
Everybody was used to make a lot of money, but it's only because they didn't save anymore.
Right.
That was the problem. And everybody was spending that money. So they didn't save it that they really needed it for prices.
I mean, personally, I feel like we can't talk about people like us saving money when our government doesn't know how to save money. Like when your GDP is smaller than your amount of national debt, it's like if the government can't keep its books balanced, how is an ordinary consumer like us supposed to do it? That's how I feel. But
yeah, I wish you good luck with your project.
Thank you so much. This is going to get bigger because of you guys helping out and stopping, saying hello. Get home safe back to Denmark.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
Carry on.
Yes, ma'am, I will. Hey, all right. Well, thank you, Natalie, for sharing positive money. Oh, yeah, news from Denmark. Damn it. I wish I just could have told them. There definitely is stuff going on there. Second too late. But, yeah, check out positivemoney.org for monetary reform news in Denmark. I am getting exhausted. My voice is getting hoarse. I'm dropping my flyers everywhere. I need to re-up my THC levels a little bit before I jump on the train and head home. And I'm going to upload this video right up to YouTube, share this out. I was just going to, try to edit a short clip out of it, but I think I'm just going to drop the whole thing week by week and try to get more people interested, because this is a pretty exciting conversation, I think. And do any of you have any last things to type in there? I love all of you very much. It's really good doing this. I think this definitely was better than last week. We're going to do it again next week. And actually, before I even come back out here on Monday, I'm going to be back out here on Friday with my weed, my weapons, and my best friends who at least live in the area, and we're gonna fucking get this done. We're gonna get more and more awareness to this bill week by week until one morning we're just gonna wake up and it's gonna be a greener world. So yeah, we will gather again next Monday at 6 p.m. William George will be back with us. We'll have Mark Young jump back on if he has anything new to say about the Alliance for Just Money. I'm going to connect with Russell again, see if he's around. But we'll see. We'll just keep following the news. It's going to be a different world by next week again. And yeah, we'll have Kashif. He says this is hella dope. If you live stream on Friday, he'll pop up again. We'll get him back on. And I know all of us are going to keep doing our homework. We're going to keep spreading the message of hope and change and prosperity that the NEED Act represents. And I'm going to quit talking, get home, and keep working. Thank you all very much. Good night. God bless us all.